At dinner at a hotel with my son, I saw my husband proposing to a woman. Would he make her happy for his late wife and son? We quietly got up from our seats to remind my husband that no one would be happy. I am Madison, a 47-year-old housewife. It has been 23 years since I married my college classmate, Daniel, and our only son, Matthew, graduated from college this year and has just become an independent company employee. I'm just relieved to finally be done with child rearing. Looking back, my husband was often away on business trips, so I never really felt like a newlywed. It was a marriage that met my husband's request to protect the family first. As the years went by, we talked less and less, and now we only have the bare minimum of conversation at home. I have no one to talk to, my friends from school, and the people I met through my son are barely a link between me and the world. Many of my generation's friends are still working and raising their children, and I am sometimes envied by those who are worried about their children's schooling and higher education, but I have felt lonely about such things. I talked to my husband about the idea of working, even for short periods of time, but he did not allow me to work outside the home because he thought it would make him look unworthy. At that time, a neighbor's wife asked me if I would like to join a cooking class. Wouldn't there be a little more conversation if I made and served my husband something delicious when he was home? With this in mind, I decided to attend the cooking class. A variety of people attended the classes where they could learn the basics and applications of cooking, and there I met a 25-year-old woman named Olivia. She was cheerful and open with me, even though I was more than 20 years older than her, and I became friends with her as if she were my daughter. This new friendship changed my life, but even when I cooked the dishes I had learned in class, which I thought would be a good conversation starter with my husband, he showed no interest at all. Finally, he stared at me and said, "Shut the hell up." He wouldn't allow me to talk to him anymore. Is this how it is with married couples who have been married for over 20 years? Or perhaps my husband only wants me to take care of all the chores in his life. If that is the case, I decided to change my mind and stop expecting more from my husband. I began to realize that there were plenty of people out there to talk to, and I began to think that I should just enjoy my life from now on. Then, the day of the cooking class, Olivia approached me for advice, and I decided to listen. My husband was out of town on a business trip that day. After the class, I could go home and just do my own thing. I don't know if I would be able to serve as a consultant, but I was happy to have someone depend on me, so I gladly agreed to talk to her. She began to talk to me nervously, and her problem was about her boyfriend. She is currently dating a man, a divorced man of the same age as me. He's the same age as my father, and I wondered if someone like me with so little life experience would be able to support him. I don't know what kind of man you are dating, but he chose Olivia, didn't he? You are cheerful and fun to talk to, so maybe that's what he is looking for. Can I be of help to him even though I am like this? I hoped she cherished those feelings. As a parent with children of about the same age, I was honestly concerned about the age difference, but I couldn't say that to Olivia, who seemed happy from what she told me. She seemed to be seriously thinking about him, and I felt more inclined to support her. After that, I began to associate with Olivia not only in a class, but also inviting her to my home, and she became acquainted with my son, who came home from time to time. On that day, I invited Olivia to my home, and as we were talking, there was my husband's watch on the corner of the living room table, and I noticed that Olivia was staring at it. Not good to leave the watch. Now that we have smartphones, we often don't wear a watch. Come to think of it, neither do I said to myself, not to anyone else. I realized once again that I had lost interest in my husband's belongings. 1 month after that incident, my son asked me if I would like to have dinner with him because he had received his winter bonus. He had asked me when he received his first salary and first bonus, but it was money that he had received as compensation for his labor. He would have a lot of socializing with friends, and there would be things he wanted. With this in mind, I had refused, saying, "I want you to use the salary for yourself," but I felt bad about refusing him again and again, so I decided to accept this time. The day he had already made a reservation, my husband, unfortunately, had to go on a business trip, and he told me, "Why don't you two go together?" without even listening to me. My son made a reservation at a restaurant on the top floor of the hotel where my husband and I had our wedding. I guess he wanted me to remember how I felt when we were newlyweds. When he heard that my husband could not come, he looked very disappointed. As I was waiting to be invited to my table at the entrance of the restaurant, I was approached by a well-dressed woman. "Olivia, what a coincidence." "Really? Are you having dinner with your boyfriend today?" I asked her. "Yes, he told me he had something important to tell me." Being invited to the hotel's top restaurant means he's finally going to propose, isn't he? Olivia, who was blushing and embarrassed, seemed to overlap with my pre-marriage self, and I felt some warmth in my heart. As soon as Olivia was ushered in, we too were called in. At the window seat, I saw Olivia sitting facing a man. I thought it was rude to stare at them, so I averted my gaze to not pay attention to them, but my son was staring at Olivia and the man. "What's wrong with that other guy?" my son asked. "Not much to look at." "No, you should look at them too, Mom," my son replied. At my son's words, I shifted my gaze to Olivia and the man. There he was, the husband we knew so well. He was holding Olivia's hand and smiling a smile he had not shown me since we were married. "I think I've got the wrong guy. They say there are at least 3 people in this world who look like you," I said to myself. Not wanting to be there, my body naturally moved toward the exit of the restaurant, but my son stopped me. "I know you don't want to be here, but I think it's better to make sure of it right here and now." "But are you sure you don't want to know what Olivia's intentions were?" "You associated only for that, Olivia," my son said. I sat down at the seat I was led to, and I peeked around, listening carefully so that I could hear their conversation. While they were talking about nothing else, my husband's hand was still worrying about his suit pocket. It was the same motion he used when he proposed to me 23 years ago. As if determined, he took the ring case out of his pocket and held it out to Olivia. "I want you to marry me." "I will make you as happy as my late wife and son," my husband said. What a surprise. Not only was my husband cheating on me, but he seemed to be telling Olivia that I and our son were gone. Hearing this, my desire to get out of the place vanished. We exchanged a signal with our eyes and quietly got up from our seats and walked over to where they were sitting. Then I quickly closed the ring case that my husband was holding out to Olivia. "Hi, I am your late wife and son." "Please excuse us for interrupting this important conversation," I said. My husband stared at us as we suddenly appeared, unable to move as he held out the ring case. "Why are you here?" he asked. "We came back because God told us to help a woman who is being cheated without knowing anything about it. It seems that even in hell you are famous for your wickedness." "Are you kidding me, God and hell? Which one is joking?" I replied. "Madison, what does this mean?" My husband asked. "This man, Daniel, is my husband. So the story that he lost his wife and son is complete." "That's impossible," I said. Olivia stared at me and my husband's face alternately in disbelief. We were no longer in a position to eat, but we asked the restaurant to prepare the same table for us. The restaurant seemed to understand our situation and rearranged us to sit at a table away from the other guests. However, when the food we had ordered was brought to the table, none of us felt like eating, and there was only silence. It was my son who started the conversation. Please, Dad, explain to us what's going on. Explain. You should explain that you are dating Olivia even though you have a wife, and why you are asking her to marry you based on the premise that you have lost us, my son said. My husband looked at us and at Olivia, finally noticing our son's words. Oh, by the way, you guys knew Olivia. We became friends because we both go to the same cooking class. You're too far apart in age. You're both very far apart in age, aren't you? What are you talking about when you've been with a girl who's no older than Matthew? My husband said. That's just. My husband met Olivia 3 years ago. It started when my husband fell in love at first sight with her when she was in charge of one of his clients. He pretended to her that he had been single since the death of his wife and child and desperately tried to seduce her. It's appalling. It's pathetic that my own father was such a man. So you're telling her you've been falsely claiming that you're not even divorced? My son said. Both my son and I could no longer do anything but sigh. My husband kept talking frantically to us. Olivia didn't know anything. This much is true. Please believe me. You've been painting with lies, my husband said. I thought calmly that there was not a shred of love left in him for me as my husband defended Olivia. However, I myself sensed that my husband's story was true, so I no longer had any doubts about her. When I returned my gaze from my husband to Olivia, she was lying on her face, clutching the dress she was wearing. For her, the man she had trusted until now was actually married and had even lied to her about their relationship. It must be very shocking. She may not even know whether she can trust me or my husband. I spoke to her as calmly as I could. I don't know what kind of stories you've heard from him so far, but just I believe you because you are not the kind of person who would tell a lie like this, I said. Oh no, I knew there was something wrong with him. In fact, when she visited my home for consultation, she found a watch identical to the one she had given to him, and she was wondering about it. That watch was all original, so I didn't think it could be exactly the same. Still, somewhere along the line, she wanted to believe in him. She was unable to confirm the fact, my husband said. Daniel, what were your intentions in dating me? Olivia asked. I'm in love with you. I was going to divorce my wife when we met, and I felt sorry for you if I found out you were having an affair when we were dating. So seriously, then you should have just gone out with me after your divorce. I feel sorry for Madison and Matthew, who had their existence erased, even if it was a lie, my husband said. My husband, who was blamed not only by us but also by Olivia, shrank back pathetically. Even though I didn't know it was happening, I am sorry I had to come to this, and I am sorry too, but Olivia was deceived too. I don't blame you. I am an adult in my late 20s. I had to be sure what kind of person whom I was going out with was. After saying this, Olivia bowed deeply to us. We felt rather sorry for her. You're going to hell for cheating such a good person, aren't you? My son asked. There is no hell. There is, but in your case, before you fall into the hell of the other world, the hell of this world, I said. I took Olivia by the hand and left the restaurant, leaving my husband alone. After that, my divorce with my husband was finalized. I received $50,000 in alimony for the affair and the division of property, but I felt that my 23 years of devotion to my husband was nothing like this. But perhaps it was disappointment in my marriage that had to be liquidated in this way. Later, my ex-husband was also charged alimony by Olivia. They say that falsely claiming to be single constituted a tort of infringement of her right to chastity and violation of her personal rights. Since they had been dating for more than 2 years, he was to be charged about $10,000 in addition. I heard that he had to resign from his company because of the bad publicity he was getting for cheating on a young woman. In addition to his adultery, since he had always been a man who spent money lavishly, he had to borrow money from his relatives in order to pay the alimony he had demanded from us. He got a job through his relative who borrowed money, and he worked there for a while, but the story spread fast, and he could not stay there for a long time. Currently, he is working a day job to pay off his debts. I thought I would have a hard time finding a job after being a stay-at-home mom for so long, but I was able to get a regular job at a housekeeping service company because they appreciated my housekeeping skills, and my friendships are growing. Olivia and I have become somewhat estranged since then, but from my perspective, she is also a victim. I sent her an email when we had calmed down, and we became friends again, and we are still friends to this day. I hope that this time she will meet someone wonderful.